Welcome to Displacer Geeks. My name is Brian.
And I'm Hudson, and we're two geeks talking about the geek. What are we going to talk about today, Brian?
I'm going to give you a clue. It's in the background.
See, they're underwater. Looks like they're out of their depth. They're two characters. Are we talking about character depth?
We are. Oh my gosh, you figured it out. The hardest riddle in the world behind me, and you figured it out in milliseconds. And we may
Whew,
have talked about it beforehand, but
whew.
that's okay.
Man, I almost screwed that up.
Hey, that's all right. We're good at screwing things up. All
Uh,
right. So
yeah.
I got a question for you.
Mhm.
Character depth. Is it the most important thing for your RPG character to have character depth?
The most important thing? No. I think
Why?
it's I think it's important. It's just not the most important.
I would
Uh,
agree. I would agree.
right. So character depth, there's times when it's just a thought exercise, like one shots, for example. It's fun. It helps you play the character or whatever. But like, if you write a 30-page novelette about it, like, and then you play it for 4 to 6 hours and call it quits, like, if you had fun writing the novelette, I guess it was worth your time.
Yeah, true. So it depends on a lot of things. Why don't we talk about the pros and cons of character depth and not a lot of character depth? So first off, a lot of character depth, or when should people do it? So the first thing I will say is I think people should do it if they want to, because it's all about having fun, whether you want to have a super in-depth character or not. But again, we both said character depth's pretty good. And why? Let's talk about some of the cons. One of the things I like about character depth is it gets me more involved in the story. I get excited. And then I also give my game master opportunities to create the story around my character or just develop this really cool story together. So there's one
Yeah.
of my cons. What do you think, Hudson?
That sounded like a pro to me. Anyway, no, a
Oh,
con.
I meant pro. I meant pro. Am I mixing all this up? I meant the good stuff, the pros, the
This is
pros.
the pros.
Do
Yeah.
I keep
So the
saying pro?
pros, yeah, that is definitely a
Hey,
pro.
look, we goofed up. So I meant pros.
It's okay, buddy. No, that is a good, that's an awesome pro. And then it helps you go in and make decisions more readily right off the bat. Like, what would this character do in this moment? Because, like with that decision making process to help you actually start with that role playing right out the gate instead of like going like, oh, like start making decisions like trying to figure it out like down the road.
I agree. That's a really good point. It will help you role play. I mean, if you want to role play, that is, like full on role play, like only do what your character wants to do, which I think's a lot of fun. But yeah, you're right. It does help you figure things out quicker, make decisions quicker, whether it's based on your guy's background or any crazy events that happened in the past or what their major goal is. And boy, it leads to more smoothness for sure, I think.
Yep.
I
No.
want to get back to the game master side. Uh,
Hmm. Keep
Not
going.
that all game masters want this, but for me, game mastering is my favorite thing. I'd rather game master than play, like by far, but I still love playing. I love it when players have tons of character depth because then I just sit there and go, okay, well, I want my campaign to kind of have this as a theme, and then I'll just let the story play itself out or let the character depth build that storyline. And then as we play, it all builds together and it's super phenomenal. And I totally love it. We're playing a current campaign right now that I'm running. And boy, some of the last few sessions, I'm just thrilled at it's been a slow grind of a campaign, but the slow reveals of character story and background and knowledge has been I'm ecstatic about it. I'm jumping out of my skin. I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah, there was a pretty big reveal last time. I'm not gonna say it just in case people are
Yeah,
listening.
don't say it.
Spoilers, but I was just like, oh, that's odd.
Uh-huh. Yep, yep. No, that's great. I
So
think the players can have fun with each other too if there's a lot of character depth as well.
yeah, it helps because it goes back to that role play because then like they're
Yes.
going to make decisions and then it might be a decision that doesn't sit well with the others. So it really opens up that role playing aspect.
Yeah.
For example, a certain person did in the same campaign made a decision, and boy, my character was mad.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
To the point where he was just like, I'm gonna let you find out exactly how much you need the rest of us.
The moment where all of us were like, "You did what? Wait, what?"
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just like, he's like, help, and like the character that did the questionable thing was like, help me do this. And I'm like, no.
No. No. It's great. It was great. I think character depth does help you get attached to your character too,
Yeah,
which makes the whole experience enjoyable as well. Because then if there's a heartfelt moment in the story, or there's a betrayal in the story, or anything like that, or if you feel like, oh, or if your character dies, for goodness sakes, I mean, you're gonna feel the impact a lot more because of the character depth, I think, which
yeah,
is an awesome pro to me, not con, like I was saying earlier. Pro, very cool pro thing.
yep,
Pro.
yeah. So yeah, and we could talk about like how much character depth you can put into it because I think some people going kind of leading in from this to go into a con that's kind of related. Some people just make up their character and go way in depth, and then it doesn't actually mesh with what the game master is trying to accomplish in the
Well,
story.
so yeah, let's switch over to that con then. So
Yeah,
one of the cons, bad things of making a very in-depth character is that, yeah, your background could clash with the story, the GM, the other players in a not super fun way,
yeah,
or actually just in a way that doesn't help. Like, oh, I made this combat monster guy and we don't fight anything, which that's not super depth, but you know what I mean.
yeah. I think you can make the combat master, but you definitely need to make sure you're doing those character death things, right? So we had a guy that not only did he make a bad combat monster, he made a really just bad character.
That doesn't sound very nice.
So he basically made Shrek,
I mean, that sounds awesome to me.
but like he would run around, but he didn't do like any of his stats very well. He just like dumped everything to strength, and
Yeah. A lot
and
of
there was a
people do.
lot. There was a lot to Shrek. He was an onion. Onions have layers.
Hey,
This
you're
guy had
losing
one.
me.
He had one. He had one. He was an apple. He was just, that's all he
Oh, okay.
was.
Okay. He was not an onion. Got it. Got
Not an onion. He
it.
and he would be like, and he would just run around trying to do these crazy things, and would just try to roll a net 20, allowing for an auto success for something that he should have been able to like even reasonably attempt, and became
Gotcha.
very distracting. So there's times when that's good, but also like when it's bad, right? So sometimes people write these very in-depth characters, and they're writing things just wouldn't make sense for the world or the game,
True. Yeah, it can
right?
be hard. It can be hard on the game master there.
And it puts you in automatic conflict with the game master because you're trying to act upon these things that you've written, and the
Yeah.
game master is going, well, like that's really not actually okay.
Yeah. So a way to avoid that for sure is talk to your game master ahead of time and
Yeah,
really try to figure out what the world's going to be like. Then make a character based off that. And then also game masters should adjust to their story a bit. So as long as it's not totally out of the realm, like, the current campaign we're playing in that I'm running, I just told everybody, hey, no mechanical things. There's no tinkering, none of that. And any of the tinkering type elements and stuff, we've kind of adjusted a little bit, but it hasn't been a big deal and it's been just fine. And all the players knew about it ahead of time, so it wasn't a big deal.
right.
So it's been going good. Another con that you could have with major character depth too is just you could be let down by the game master. Not that the game master's purposely trying to do it, but let's just say you're like, oh, I have this story and there's like, I'm trying to find my long lost brother and this magical ring and or whatever it is, and if the game master just kind of forgets about it or doesn't really put that into the story, you're going to be let down.
Yeah,
And again, you should know what the game master is like and that kind of thing, but you're definitely open to more disappointments, I think, if that makes sense.
right.
Not to the fault of anybody, it just could play out that way because game masters sometimes forget about things.
Yeah, we're all human, right? Like just like
Yes.
they can't remember everything.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Here's a quick little tip though. Keep in touch with your players and just check in on them and say, "Hey, what'd you think of last session? Hey, is there anything that you want to see happening?" And it'll help you write your story and it'll help your players be happier too. So,
yeah,
yep, yep. Um,
yeah.
you have anything
So
else to add?
one thing I like to do for like character death is like maybe don't start out like fully fleshed out,
Yes.
right? Right. Allow for things to be added later. Uh,
Yeah.
and then so you just start out with like maybe 3 or 4 bullet points to make sure you have like a good idea like how the character is going to act and behave, and then like something else comes up and then like it becomes very relevant. So a little bit of a spoiler, my character is a halfling, and like the halfling settlements had been wiped out, or a halfling settlement had been wiped out, and he finds out there's other halfling city in this other city, and then he's very interested in it. He hasn't really done a lot with it, but because there was that plot point of like his city being that, right, like now I gave him room to be like, oh, there's other halfling, like whole communities of halflings in this other place, and very very interested in that.
Yeah, in this world we're playing in where it's kind of post-apocalyptic and people don't
Yeah,
know a lot of stuff. So that lent itself well to a neat little moment of like, oh wait, there's other halflings. Like,
yeah.
sweet. That's cool.
And it was just
Um,
kind of a bullet point. It wasn't even like
yeah.
that big of a deal, right? It wasn't
So
like fleshed out.
this kind of leans towards little character depth or lack of character depth, which again does not mean that's a bad thing whatsoever. And to your point, I would say a little bit of character depth, like a lack of character depth, could also just mean a few bullet points, like you're saying with your halfling character. And it's
Mhm.
going to play out. It's been playing out just fine and great. And the character mixes perfect with the group. Other times, I think, could find a pro. The good things for lack of character depth or little character depth is when you're doing one shots. If you're going to just sit down and play a game once, especially at like a convention or online where you're playing with people you've never met before, I mean, you could spend a bunch of time to make a character, and it it's always fun for me, so I like doing that anyways. But it's just might not be worth it because it's not like you're gonna like flesh out this amazing background story of the revenge for the father or whatever, It's you're gonna be
Yeah,
one and done.
yeah,
What I like to do honestly at one shot, I like playing silly one shots as kind of my favorite thing because then everybody can just laugh and giggle and we just make stuff up and it's silly, stupid, and that's it. But that's
yeah,
personal preference.
yeah. I
Or
did.
I mean, I like all sorts of one shots. Who am I kidding? I like them all.
Yeah, the character from the Cookie One Shot, I actually used them another time, and it was for a charity. uh,
Yeah, yeah.
Jasper's Game Day. And I had a lot of fun there, and the big thing with that though was like nobody really had like a huge character idea.
Mm-hmm.
So like but I had built around this fact that my guy was actually a cook,
Mm-hmm.
even though he was a barbarian, but he was a cook. And like the cooking theme kept reappearing with all the characters weirdly, completely, completely. And so the guy had to our DM for reasons had to get subbed in last minute.
Okay.
Um, which all of us were cool with, but the DM got subbed in last minute, so he was like trying to figure out like what to do, and he's just like, "Oh, everybody's doing cooking thing. I got this." And then next thing you know, we're in a cooking contest.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
but like so, like sometimes just like the little like those little bullet points, that everybody had something with cooking, and it was just like,
All
"Hey,
worked
here we
out.
go."
No, I
Out.
agree. No, I agree. Speaking of that one shot, by the way, you and I did a one shot, a duet one shot, just you and I, called a cookie story. You can find it on Spotify, called the D&D Cookie Story. And you had ran Cookie in that one shot with the Jasper Company or charity. And then when we decided to run a one shot, you were like, I'm going to use this character. So I totally named the town of that place Jasper and, and just took ideas from there. And we just
Yep.
rolled with it. And it was super
Yep.
fun. So check that out when you get a chance. Again, called the D&D Cookie Story on Spotify. It's one of my I love that little story. Little one shot. Little character depth. I would say another thing. So one of my favorite characters I've ever played is right here. That's Geo. It's the satyr on my left. Okay, yeah. So you can see the satyrs in the middle of the screen there. That's my satyr named Giovanni. Scoundrel pirate, do anything to steal and did not care about anything but having fun and taking things. And there was actually a decent amount of bullet points, I would say, for it. Not a ton, but a decent amount. But the previous character I played was like the exact opposite. He was a very by the book paladin, goody two shoe. And with that guy, I've specifically kind of going to what you were saying, just did a few bullet points because I wanted to just develop him as I went. So just started out as very standard, by the book, going to follow the rules, and that's it. Very classic paladin, and that was fun too. That was fun too. So yeah, little character depth can still be a lot of fun, even in a campaign.
Yep.
And I would also note that one of the pros potentially could be that some GMs might like it when a lot of players don't have tons of character depth because it depends on the GMs. Maybe there's GMs that get too stressed out about all of that. So
Yeah.
again, to each their own. Talk with your GM, talk with your players, and kind of go from there. Let's go into the last section of the cons of lack of character depth because there are some, and I'm going to bring
Yeah.
up the exact same characters I just talked about, at least one of them. So my paladin that I played, we're going to contrast that to the character that you played in that campaign. So my guy was just kind of going with the flow, and that entire campaign that lasted 3 years, there were so many moments where your guy, with a lot of character depth, like you named out your entire family line and all this and that, throughout the campaign, there's tons of reveals and big moments with your character. There were not as many big moments with my character because I didn't create the story I didn't give the GM the bullet points for that, which is totally fine. But you might play and might be like, oh, I don't have any of these great moments. Well, sometimes a good amount of the time you do it on your own. It's kind of a fault to your own in a way,
Yeah.
without sounding negative, I guess. What do you think
Yep.
about that?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Like there's you don't become part of, like you're almost, even though like you're like one of the main characters, you're just a background character is just
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah.
Uh the final the final two characters that we fought were tied to your character's sister and then my character.
Yeah, and real quick, my character's sister was another player. So that player and you had a bunch of moments where my guy was kind of the filler, which again was totally fine.
Yep.
But you could run into that if you have lack of character depth.
Yeah. Like it's just, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then the campaign behind you, like I weirdly accidentally became, wait, other way. This guy right here accidentally became the main character because he
Yeah, true.
he he had he had a task and purpose, which a lot of the other characters, they kind of really didn't, but it really drove the
Yeah.
story.
You,
Uh
if you listen to our campaign 2 on D4 on the floor, oh my goodness, you'll find out right away what Hudson's character's curse is. And yes, it's a real curse.
it's a real made
You'll
up
love it.
curse.
It's the most ridiculous campaign you could ever listen to. It's so fun. And if you haven't listened to D4 on the Floor podcast yet, we do fully edited, except campaign 1 on there. But campaign 2 and later in our one shots are all fully edited and have sound effects and music. And I take a lot of pride in that. So check them out. They're really entertaining. And I, I think Giovanni right there, I think that was my favorite character I've ever played in all of my role playing games. And for character depth, I would say it was honestly more towards the lower end, I suppose. There's definitely was depth there for helping me with my role playing moments, but it was very wide open for the game master to decide what to do with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you also
Yeah.
like you made you gave the DM some things too, a lot
Yes.
more so than you did with Lucan. And
Yes,
then that
100% more. Yes.
also shaped the campaign in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so you know, that scoundrel of a pirate back there has a vest of holding, so he steals things and yoink, puts it in his
Everything.
vest. Everything.
Everything. It's not
A
nailed down,
pole,
it's his now.
a candle, candlestick holder,
Fish
hooks.
hooks.
Yep. So,
At one point he got over encumbered and was just like having to throw stuff out. Try to we gotta get
we're
out of here. The building's
running
gonna
away from an
explode.
explosion. So,
No, do I really want to throw this away?
let's tie this back to you real quick. If you think that one of your favorite characters, and if you need time to think, we can talk about something else. But what's one of your favorite characters, and where do you think it rates on the depth scale when you created the character? Was it a lot of depth or no?
Uh well, I mean, Runar Try was a lot of fun.
Okay,
And I would say he probably was in as depth as you might think. Um
nice.
he I gave him a task and a purpose.
Yeah,
I gave him, like some character flaws, and then I gave him like I keep saying like
that's okay.
uh and
You like
then
your character.
I like my character, but I was just really focused on just like a few things, but it came very like I think the task and purpose was really what ended up driving more so than the other things. It
I
was because
gotcha.
I really feel that the other characters didn't have a task and a purpose in that campaign
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that same degree. And then I think that's why Runar Chai really kind of took over a little bit.
I mean, this is super fun. That campaign's great. One more quick thing I want to talk about character depth. If you have a lack of character depth, that could be hard for. I think
The other
you could have
other
issues.
players.
Yeah, you could have issues with other players because other players will be like, no reaction, or you don't really care about what's going on, okay, or whatever. You could also have issues, I think, with game master just not really knowing what to do with your character, or just always focusing on the other people because they have this like nice rich story. And then also kind of going back to, you just might find yourself seeing other people having all these moments and really cool connections, and you just don't, because you just don't have the depth there is all. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that was a good chat. I like that. That
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you like watching us, please subscribe, like and subscribe. We are having a lot of fun doing this, and we cannot wait to hear from you. Comment on our YouTube videos, and check us out and keep us going because we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope to see you around.
Thank you.
Have a good day.